Hey, welcome to another episode of Fish Innovation. I'm really excited this week to talk to a man, Nick is his name, and he is a 10X business coach. And like I've mentioned several times before on the show, I like to have supporting partners on the show to help you with running your business, thinking differently about your business, and those out there that can help support you. And coaching is one of my biggest things that I believe people really should do, whether you have a business or not. It's always good to hear other people's perspectives. There's always a different way of doing things that you might not have thought of. And it's great to have a person who's in your corner. What's special about this guest is not only is he a coach, but he's also quite innovative in his life and what he's done. And I'm going to save that for him to tell the story. So, with that, Nick, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I know you're crazy busy and you are up in the early hours because you're a grinder, you get things done. And so the way we always start out is kind of getting your background, like what led you to business coaching? Tell me the story.
I first want to start out with where it all began, and the start is I was born dead. I had no heartbeat. I wasn't breathing, nothing. Thankfully, they revived me, obviously, because I'm here talking to you. But a year later, I was diagnosed with cerebral palsy, and that has forced me to be innovative my whole entire life. And now, as a business owner and a business coach, I'm really good at solving problems. So when my clients have a problem, I usually find a solution very quick because I'm always looking for different ways to do everything.
Yeah, I love that. And not a lot of people have that skill, and that's so critical in not just your field, but even product management and folks coming up with ideas on how to do things or what could be plaguing them in their business. I mean, a lot of people will hire consultants because they're like, oh, well, I don't know how to do this, or maybe I'm doing it right, but let's go find a consultant. But the consultant follows frameworks and strategies that they most of the time, a lot of the big companies will go to apply. What I think is really cool though is you're able to basically hear a problem for the first time, and it's always going to be a different way to approach it because that is how your mind thinks. And
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah, and we can take, a couple of different solutions and see which one fits best for the client and their business.
Yeah, that I love that. Maybe you have like a recent example of a problem you solved with somebody. Would you be able to talk about that?
Yeah, I can. One of my clients, they were looking at starting a foundation, and I was like, talk to somebody else that had done. It sounds simple, but a lot of us get stuck in our own head, and we don't like to reach out for help. And it's just like finding little solutions like that makes all the difference. And then they just started doing the journey of finding somebody else that could help them, and then go forward in that.
That's really cool. Like, how are you able to find folks? Like, I know this person, is that the realm you're usually in, or is there a specific um person or business type that you're focusing on?
Well, for me, one of the things is all of my clients have a podcast because I know how powerful a podcast is to any business. And when you have a podcast, you kind of have the power to pretty much talk to whoever you need to talk to. So let's say for me, let's say I want to learn more about health insurance. I can just simply reach out to somebody in the health insurance field, have them on my show, ask them all the questions I want, and ta-da, there you go. You know, so it's really cool when my clients do have a problem, and then I simply just bring up the fact like, hey, have you thought about bringing on somebody in that field on your show? And then you can talk to them, you can ask them questions, all of that. And people are more than willing to be on a podcast these days. Like, everybody loves it because they know how much it can help themselves.
Well, it's funny, the way you kind of describe it, I was kind of thinking in my head, you're kind of like an old school a chat GPT, right?
Yeah.
You're like, okay, I want to learn about this. yeah, I guess I could go on ChatGPT, or I could just go straight to the source and hear an expert talk about it and be able to ask that expert questions without having it hallucinate, right?
Yep. Yeah, like throughout my journey of, I've had my podcast for almost a year and a half now. And, I get to points in my, development growth where I get kind of stuck. And one of those things that I was stuck on is how to be a good communicator. So guess what I did? I had a professional communications coach on my podcast, and then I got to ask them all the questions I wanted, and they significantly helped me communicate better just from that one half-hour episode.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with you. I'll go back to old episodes with guests and listen to them
Yeah,
a
same.
few times a month in some cases because I'm like, this is gold. Hey, I it was nice. It was nice of them to do it. I'm glad, now I'm not the only one. I get to control the questions, right? I'm sure there's other people want to ask others, but it's amazing. Going back to what you said before is like, people like to be on podcasts. I think we are, we're social creatures and we like to communicate with one another. Have you, I know you said, and you also mentioned there's a lot of folks that are your clients have been also, podcast hosts. Do you see it, as a way to kind of do lead generation even?
Definitely. So how my podcast is structured and how I help my clients structure their podcast is if your podcast is about what your ideal client wants to hear and what they want to talk about, you're just gonna draw your clients to you in the forms of listeners and your guests. Most of my clients have been guests on my show. And then it also goes the other way. I have guests on my show that I became their client. So it really works really good.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to get to know each other,
Yeah.
and then you're asking these questions that provide a lot of this thought leadership or ways that it's sort of I don't want to say your defenses are down when you're having a podcast, but you're more likely to have a candid conversation about whatever it is than more of like, oh, I'm being sold to, or they're selling to
Yeah.
me, or
And
because
like for me, I don't like to hard sell anyone.
yeah,
Every time that I have a guest on the podcast, we do a pre-call first. I think that's very important in podcasts.
yeah,
Like, you want to know who you're going to have on your show before they come on your show. So in that, pre-interview, I tell them what I do. They tell me what they do. If they're interested in what I do, we talk about that further. If I'm interested in what they do, then we talk about that further. So it's just really awesome. And I know there's a lot of people that hard sell on the first call, and I don't like that. And I'm sure that I could, have a lot more clients if I was like that. But I'm authentic. I'm me. Like I know how it is to hop on a call with someone and they're just like sell, 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 sell. And I don't care for it. So I don't want to be that way myself.
yeah. Well, I mean, you're more of a fact finder, right? I mean, you
Hmm.
go out and seek questions. So if somebody's just trying to tell you how to do something, it's not the greatest conversation. And I think that's kind of how we all should be sold to, right? Is just sort of what are the facts and data? I mean, we go through every day. Everybody has their own struggles, and I'm sure at least once a day, the average person would have an idea like, "Oh, if this was made better, I'd be so much happier." And then, then the thought leaves, right? So if you were talking to someone who was having a conversation with you, and then somehow that topic of whatever you thought of earlier that day, that was bothering you, you end up talking about, yeah, I had that same problem. Me too. I hate that. I wish someone solved it. Well, actually somebody did. No, you're kidding. No, I found it myself. You should go, check it out. It's really cool. Well, thanks, man.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that instead of, "You should have this, this is just gonna help you so much." Like,
Hmm.
I'm sorry, what is it again? Like, why am I needing
Yeah.
help? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Who said I needed help?
Yeah. So, Yeah, I mean, I think it's really cool that you're able to have all these different guests. I mean, what when we were having, like, the pre-call together, I know you mentioned you're like, "Yeah, I do about, like, 30 a week." And I'm like, "Wow, that is amazing."
I used to, not anymore,
Uh,
but I used to.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, well, still doing 30 a week, even, like, doing more than 1 a week, is a lot. I think that's amazing to do, and you get to see how it all goes and that you're that inquisitive and wanting to learn and hungry for those learnings. Is there anybody who you've had on your show that's just like a great story where you're just like, wow, either I wasn't expecting that and that was amazing, or this changed my life? And then, can you tell that story of that podcast?
I recorded 189 episodes with guests, so there's a lot of them. I'd say the one with the best story. Yeah, no, I can't remember the name. Oh, that's embarrassing. Well, let's
No,
go
that's
on
all
to
right.
somebody
Well,
else that is a great story, a good podcast host, and a great guest. His name is Steve Wagstaff, and at 19 years old, he jumped into a lake headfirst and paralyzed himself. His story and his journey through everything that he'd gone through is just incredible to hear, and he's always pushing forward. So it's really inspiring.
yeah, that's really cool. I thought you were gonna there was a story I heard, of a guy as well, like 19, who jumped into, I guess it would have been a pool. He ended up hitting his head. He didn't become paralyzed, but he unlocked something in his brain that allowed him to play piano.
Really?
And it wasn't just like piano, like he doesn't read music. He can hear something and just play an entire piece. And I remember the interview with the guy, he was like, "Twinkle, twinkle, little star." He's like, "I don't know how it goes." And they're like, "Oh, it goes like twinkle, twinkle, little star." So he's like, "Oh, okay." And then he plays this like advanced rendition of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. You're like, okay, it's Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, but like this guy just came up with it. You're like, nah, like you already knew that. He's like, can you play it again? He's like, no, I really can't. It just comes
Wow.
to me. I don't know what I pressed. I don't know what I did. And I'm like, wow,
Wow. That's
that's
incredible.
yeah. So
That's
it's not
cool.
Steve though.
Yeah.
Steve, Steve, yeah, Steve does something different. So that's really cool. Like, so when in your business coaching, I know that you had talked about the problem solving, the critical thinking, like how you're kind of going through that. What are some of your cool success stories that you've had with clients?
Yeah, look, I the number one thing that all my clients struggle with at first is posting enough on social media. A lot of people think it's okay to post 1 or 2 times a week, and I can tell you that's not gonna do anything. And you gotta think of it like when you're posting on social media, you're basically throwing a brick into the Grand Canyon. You're not gonna make a difference. And you have to post a lot and consistent every day. My recommendation is at least 6 posts a day, and that's 3 videos. Like 3 of those posts should be videos. Because when you're, a lot of, a couple of my clients are coaches, and when you're a coach, you need people to know you, like you, and trust you. Well, if they don't see you, they're never gonna know you, they're never gonna like you, and they're never gonna work with you. So you wanna do everything you can to be seen, and the best way to do that is social media. And I always recommend post on every single platform because they're all free. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to pay for ads. Just post content.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting. I've had other folks on the podcast that have talked about like specific to your industry, so if you're trying to do B2B, Twitter is probably the way to go, or LinkedIn. Of course, not everyone's on LinkedIn, so you could be talking to an empty, if you're Speaking about, I mean, maybe like a famous artist, right? Maybe they have a LinkedIn, who knows? But like, probably most artists don't have a LinkedIn page, and so if you're like, "Hey, calling all artists, here's some cool stuff I want to talk about," they're probably not going to hear you. But maybe on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram probably is where the artists are going to hang out because of
Yeah,
the posting, the visual pictures that go along with the posting. It's not just that, or maybe even TikTok.
yeah. And then, once my clients start posting more and they actually have a content schedule, they start to see people sending them DMs and reaching out to them for their services.
Yeah,
And especially when you have a podcast, because then people are just reaching out all the time. Hey, I'll be a guest on your show. So it's make sure that when you post, you're not posting just random stuff either. Like, tell people what you do. Tell people how you can help them, and tell people your story. That's another main thing. Tell your story.
yeah, yeah. I think you're right because I don't think people go and look at historical posts. They're like, oh, okay, let me go see what else this person's written. Maybe the first, the last couple, but they're not going to go deep into your. Let's see what this guy said a year ago. I
Exactly.
want to
That's
know.
why you just gotta keep posting more and more. And guess what? If you post something a month ago, you can take it and post it again.
Yeah,
That's
that's
my little rule. Is like if it's a month old, I'll post it again. Act like nobody sees it because realistically, nobody does.
no, it's true.
So
Last year, I was on a LinkedIn call and they had the marketing guy, talking. It's like talking about posting, and he said, so he was kind of giving his schedule, right? Like he was saying, yeah, you post often. And he's like, but what you do is you just repeat posts. He was actually saying the same post every 2 weeks, right?
mhm.
Because he's like,
Yeah,
he's like, yeah, you might see that you got 1,000 impressions, but all that means is it went through somebody's feed. It doesn't mean they actually read what you said. And so when you post it again, it usually targets a different audience. I mean, there's millions upon millions, hundreds of millions of people on LinkedIn. I think what is it, like almost a billion? I don't know, something
yeah,
big.
I don't know.
Who
A
knows?
lot.
That's large enough that you're not reaching everybody in the world. So
Yeah,
there's a good chance that a week later you're gonna have different people.
yeah. And use keywords for your ideal client. That helps a lot.
No, yeah, agreed. Like where people when they're searching on things or those are topics, you'll more likely show up in their feed because those are things they're looking at and the algorithm wants to give you relevant content.
Yeah, yeah, because like for me, I say infinite abilities a lot. So if you Google infinite abilities, you're gonna see a bunch of videos of me. So it's
That's
kind of
awesome.
cool. And I guess yeah, somewhat to do with my business. Because my slogan is "Your abilities are infinite," and my
Yeah.
podcast is the Infinite Abilities Podcast.
Yeah.
But so yeah, you search that or those two words, and I pop up, which is really cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. So social media is a good lead gen with your podcasting. Is there anything else you tell clients, that they should be focusing in on from maybe a lead gen perspective or just general advice for them?
Yeah, I mean, doing cold reach outs is big, and you gotta reach out because some people just need that, that little extra touch. Let's say, that personal touch. So send out DMs to people. That's really easy to do, especially on Instagram and LinkedIn. That's super easy. Facebook's a little harder because if you're not friends with them or whatever, they won't see it. But reach out to people and then pick up the phone and call people, like especially once you get a list going, an email list, let's say, you know, pick up the phone and call the people that you've been in contact with or they've been a client in the past and keep following up. Follow up is, I think, the topic that I cover more often than not. And it's because most business owners don't follow up hardly at all. And on average, it takes 8 to 12 touch points with someone before they become a client.
Yeah.
I think it's like 92% of businesses make 2 follow-ups, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, there's like, yeah, there's follow up. I don't think it's when you say 8 to 10. I've seen that too. I've talked to a lot of marketers who've mentioned that it's a lot, but it's not, 8 follow ups, right? It's touch points. So it could be, you're right, a phone call, then the voicemail is the second touch point, and then an email or a social media message, right? So there's all these different ways. You're not bombarding with the same email 12 times.
No,
I
you gotta change it up. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn, I think there's some person, I don't know why he keeps I think I get a message from him like once a week. That's like it's like, "Okay, are you ready now? Do you think I'm how do I unsubscribe on LinkedIn?" I don't think about it.
Yeah.
Um, but even then, speaking of like sales, it was really interesting the other day. Um, I mean, I felt bad for the guy. I don't know if that's was his tactic, but he came door to door. So he came to my house and it was during dinner time. Look, if you're in sales, I get it. You want to grind, but I mean, it's dinner time. Probably not the best time to knock on people's doors. I get it.
But
They're home.
they know, yeah, I was just gonna say, they know you're home.
Yeah. But I feel like you can be home after dinner. And so he wanted to sell me like pest control. And I already have a pest control person. They do an awesome job. The price can't be beat. I'm about loyalty, so I'm not price sensitive when it comes to that stuff. So he's like, "Well, we do more." And I'm like, "I know, but I'm not interested at this time." And I was being like really nice, like, "Hey, I appreciate it. I totally get it. But I'm gonna have to pass this time." He's like, "Well, let me tell you about the services." And I was like, "I get it. I'm sure you got really good services, man. It's dinner time. My family's sitting right here waiting because I'm at the door. So let's not waste time. Maybe the next person will want to get your services." "Well, there's people in your neighborhood who are getting my services, and let me show you those services." All right, man. I really don't want to. I think I probably said it 9 or 10 times. And I said to the guy, I was like, "Look, I do not want to close my door in your face. I'm not that kind of guy. I really do not want to. Can we just agree? We're gonna part ways after right now. We're gonna, part ways, and it was nice to meet you, and I'll see you, maybe I'll see you again." And he's like, "But let me tell you why I'm gonna help you out." I was like, "I'm gonna count down from 3, and then I'm gonna have to close the door. So I'm not closing it in your face. I'm giving you a warning that I'm closing the door. So do you understand that I'm gonna count down?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "All right, 3, 2. So let me tell you about the services." All right, bye. Like,
Yep.
I don't know. And then he left. I was like, wow, like, did he think that I was gonna? I mean, maybe he was trying to get to those 12 touch points because I told him nine times. No, but
Yeah.
I didn't
But
know how he thought I was gonna change my mind.
it's like in sales, treat others the way that you would like to be treated yourself.
Yeah,
And it's good to be persistent to a point. You gotta know when to stop, you know?
yeah,
And hey, if that guy comes to your door every week, but he's not sitting there, you know, keeping you at the door for more than like 30 seconds, so be it. Yeah, it'll get a little annoying, but eventually he might get this sale because
yeah,
your current pest control company could just go under or whatever,
yeah. You're
And
right.
then guess who you're gonna call? You're gonna call that guy that knocks on your door, you know,
Yeah,
100 times.
100 times at 30 seconds or less, not
Yeah,
not 100 times in one 6-minute conversation.
yeah, yeah. But that's why follow up is important, and it's important to
Yeah,
keep following up. I do have a follow up book on my website that I give away, and it's like 365 days of follow up. And it goes through like the first 3 days, do this, this, and this. And then wait like 5 days. Then wait like 15 days. So you start to spread it out so you're not, getting super annoying. And yeah, it goes through like the whole year of what you can do for a follow up. And it's really cool to, see a good schedule and know what you should do.
And on top of that too, like, listen to the other person, right? Because
Mhm.
they if you're able to get them to kinda open up and talk, well, then you don't it's not like a hard and fast rule that's like, "Okay, in 5 days, you need to follow up." But if they're just like, "Yeah, I'm in the middle of a something right now," you're like, "Oh, okay, they're so not focused on this. If I just keep talking to them, it's gonna aggravate them.
Exactly, yep.
It's gonna fall through the cracks." But I know that based on what he's been talking about, in 2 weeks, he's gonna be freed up. That's when I should show up again. And then what would be great is I said, "I know you've been crazy busy. I remember when we talked last time. I wanted to kinda touch base with you and catch up." Then that guy might be like, he wow, that was really cool. Like, he could have bothered me any point in time, but he didn't.
Mhm.
I know he's trying to sell to me, but yeah, let's talk. You never know, right?
Exactly.
That's great. Yeah, I know we're running short on time, but is there anything, that we haven't talked about today? I know we went off on sales, we did marketing, we did, all the great, coaching that you do within your business, and it's always a pleasure to talk about that and see how you're helping people. Is there anything that we haven't talked about yet that you'd like to make sure folks know about?
I mean, since, you're all about innovation, I think the best thing that people can take away from this is we are who limits us. We are our own worst enemy. Like, we put limits on ourselves. We don't believe we can do things, and you gotta break away from that. You gotta start believing in yourself and start to build your confidence. And there's a lot of ways that you can build confidence in yourself. But the best thing to do is just do it. Like, if you have a goal or a dream, just take steps towards that every day and just do it. And another thing about being innovative, so I used to say I can't a lot. I can't do that because blah blah blah. I can't do that because I'm handicapped. Okay, I quit saying that, except for right now. But so instead of saying I can't, say how can I. So every time that you have even the thought of I can't, stop yourself and ask yourself, how can I do that? And then start brainstorming ideas of how to get that thing done. And sometimes it's asking somebody else to do it for you. But hey, as long as you get it done, you get it done,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's great advice. Like, how, because that does get your brain working, right? Because I know a lot of people talk about when you're negativity or you're negative and there's negativity around you, you get your blinders on, you can have tunnel vision. And so if you're kind of asking your brain, like, how can I do this? Now your brain is having to think about it. It's not going to say, well, no, you can't, it's gonna be like, oh, well, all right, in that case, let's think about these different ways. And you're right. Yeah. If maybe you've decided, you're like, look, I don't know how to code. How I could achieve this is coding, but then I'm gonna have to learn how to code. I'm gonna have to practice. Maybe I'm gonna have to go get a degree in coding. I don't know. It's up to what you're looking to code. You might just say, maybe I'll find someone that can code. That
Yeah.
might be very helpful.
Yeah, exactly.
You're absolutely
Yeah,
right.
and it really opens up your world a lot more than you think because it improves your mindset. And the more that you can have a growth and positive mindset, the better your whole life is going to get. And a lot of that doesn't have to do with adding more positivity. It's more about taking away the negative. Also, pay attention to the negative thoughts and reframe it to something more positive.
Yeah, I like that. Well, how can people get in touch with you?
So you can find me on basically any social media. Just search Nick Yerhart. I'll pop up. If I don't, that's my fault. I apologize. Because that means that I'm not posting enough.
Yeah.
But I should pop up. And then you can also go to my website, www.nickyerhart.com.
Nice. So I'll put that in the show notes and in the YouTube comments so people can find you and get to hear more words of wisdom or strategies and different innovative ways that you can help them with their business. So I wanted
Thank
to
you.
thank you for being on the show, taking the time out of your day and helping enlighten us.
Of course. It was a good time.
So you guys heard Nick. Awesome. I mean, those are all golden nuggets of information that everybody should be thinking about within their business. You heard there the phrase is, how can I do this? So make sure you're asking yourself that today. If there's something where you thought you weren't going to do it, you might want to say, how can I do that? And just think about it. Put it in the comments, talk about it, email, you name it. How are you going to be able to do it? So with that, you guys have a great week and keep on innovating. Bye.